Incontestably, alas, most people are not in action worth very much. And yet, every human being is an unprecedented miracle. One tries to treat them as the miracles they are, while trying to protect oneself against the disasters they've become. That was James Baldwin. And it's with that in mind that I come before you today. You see, those of you who know me know that I was much more active on Facebook about a year ago. From that time until now, a lot has changed. And hopefully, I have become a much better steward of my time, both when it comes to my family and when it comes to being the change that I want to see. But it is of note why I ghosted, for lack of a better term, Facebook and other social media platforms in the manner in which I did. While no one will mistake me for a social media guru or the kind of individual who is even overwhelmingly social, it is fair to say I have a generally gregarious personality and I don't have any problems interacting with people. I do, however, have a problem with people who attempt to use something they know very little about, mistakenly, and to the wrong end. This can be found in my own case and my personal story, as it is the immediate cause as to why I've significantly diminished my Facebook presence, especially. As you all know, I am a graduate of the United States Military Academy, class of 2006. Some are aware of the fact that I went to Morristown Senior High School, a public school, but also of note, a Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. Arguably, those two facts are tied together, as I have often argued that if my high school was not given that particular national award, the weight of my application to West Point would not have held significantly enough for me to get in. With that fact known, what fewer people are aware of is what it means to go to Morristown High School and how I got into West Point. You see, Morristown in the 1950s and 60s, due to redlining, was actually a black suburb of Philadelphia. We couldn't live in Levittown, Pennsylvania, for example, so we had to live across a bridge in New Jersey. Due to gentrification in the 80s, however, yes, before it was popular in New York, Morristown became a predominantly white suburban town. A fact that it was only exacerbated in the late 90s by the newly minted wealth that emigrated in from other Philadelphia suburbs. As a result, my parents, for the better part of my life, worked in Trenton, New Jersey and the surrounding areas and decided to make an hour-long commute to keep us in Morristown. They relocated me as I did my children to Georgetown, in large part because of the discrepancy in schooling. I was originally enrolled in Trenton Public Schools, and that was a predominantly black school found in an urban area, in an urban environment, as you can guess, being the capital of a state like New Jersey. Quite like the segregation of the 1950s and 60s, the de facto segregation that still exists in most public schools relegates Trenton Public Schools to being one that is on the bottom tier in New Jersey, if not in the country as a whole. Morristown, however, where I went to high school and middle school, is a predominantly suburban area and also has a predominantly white population. As a result, it also has some excellent schools. So, while I appreciate my parents taking the time to move us out there, it was an incredible juxtaposition to experience as a child. And while I found a base of friends in Morristown that were somewhat multicultural, I experienced racism from the student body, from the teachers, and from the school administration. So much so, in fact, and on so many occasions, that I was on a first-name basis with our school superintendent, Dr. Vito Germanario. So, when people make the overwhelmingly false claim that I succeeded because of my own abilities, and use such a ridiculous statement to try and prove the extinction of systemic, or institutional racism, I laugh in their face. You see, I didn't succeed because racism doesn't exist. I exceeded despite it existing. I exceeded and continue to succeed not only because I personally am good at overcoming hurdles, but because everyone around me pooled their efforts and pushed me forward. My friends and my family helped push me forward with the inevitable hope that I would one day be able to help lift others up. A job that I honestly don't think I will ever fulfill in the manner in which I hope to. Just as I graduated West Point, not because racism wasn't a hindrance, but despite it. My first roommate during basic training called me boy because to him, such a moniker was appropriate. My TAC officer told me I should be happy that I was even there because most little black boys aren't offered an opportunity like this, as if to insinuate I didn't even earn my spot there. So when I hear people use my story to proselytize a false narrative that institutionalized and systemic racism doesn't exist because some black people are successful, they ignore the realities of black people. They ignore the truth. They ignore my reality. I think it is somewhat self-evident that just because you don't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Using that logic, the Grand Canyon is not real to me because I've never had the opportunity to see it with my own eyes. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Other people, including another black man who lives in my county and speaks on the commissioner's court, have made the ridiculous claim that systemic racism is a farce because they, and this is his quote, do not see it in their community. In truth, they have made a decision to not see it no matter how blatant it may be. So here's the truth, people. I have not become successful because racism doesn't exist in this country. On the contrary, I have been successful in spite of racism because of the blessings of God and the people who have helped me along the way. The Officer Greers, the Uncle Mel's, the Miss Ruby Marshalls, all of those names have taken time, effort, money out of their day to help me and others like me. Using military terminology, I am the result of a combined arms effort to produce something worthwhile. And I have everyone to thank for that. Do not usurp my story to prove an equality that is untrue. To do so spits in the face of everyone who has made me who I am. The work I have done and the work they have done. In the words of Cornel West, I am what I am because someone loves me. In my case, it is because several people, a community, a church, loves me. And with that said, as called upon by Christ, I love all of you. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope to bring you videos on at least a weekly basis as we go through several changes in our society, in our culture, in our country. Hopefully my videos will give you a unique perspective and possibly some catharsis. Remember, I love you all.